Something big is building inside the XRP ecosystem right now, and most people still don't fully understand how important this moment could be. We're not just talking about price moves or hype cycles anymore. We're talking about a complete shift in how XRP can actually be used, how it can generate value, and how it could evolve from just a held asset into something much more powerful. Welcome to XRP Gold Silver Scope, where we break things down in the simplest way so you can see the real picture behind the noise. Right now, there's a wave of excitement spreading across the XRP community, and it's coming from a series of announcements and developments that are focused on one major idea: turning XRP into a productive asset. For years, most holders have followed a simple strategy: buy XRP, hold it, and wait for the long-term value to increase. That approach is still valid, and many investors believe that over the next 5 to 10 years, XRP could be worth significantly more than it is today. But now, a new direction is starting to take shape. Instead of just holding XRP and waiting, the focus is shifting toward actually using XRP to generate yield and participate in a growing financial ecosystem. This is where the concept of XRP DeFi, sometimes called XRPFI, comes into play. The idea is simple but powerful. What if your XRP could do more than just sit in a wallet? What if it could earn returns, be used in lending, or become part of a larger financial system that works around the clock? This is exactly what new developments are trying to unlock. There is growing attention around building decentralized finance directly connected to the XRP ecosystem. This includes things like lending, borrowing, staking-like mechanisms, and other financial tools that allow users to put their XRP to work. For traditional investors, this idea is not new. In the stock market or bond market, investors expect returns. Even if those returns are small, like 3 to 5%, they still represent growth on top of holding the asset itself. Now imagine combining that concept with XRP. You are not only holding an asset that could increase in value over time, but you are also potentially earning yield on top of it. That combination is what makes this new phase so interesting, especially for larger investors who are always looking for both growth and income. At the center of this shift is the idea of making everything easier for the user. One of the biggest barriers in crypto today is complexity. Moving assets between wallets, using different platforms, understanding technical steps, all of this creates friction, and every step adds risk. If something goes wrong, funds can be lost, transactions can fail, and users can become discouraged. So the focus now is on removing that friction. New infrastructure is being developed to allow XRP holders to access these features without going through complicated processes. The goal is to make it simple, secure, and accessible, even for people who are not highly technical. Imagine being able to use your XRP for earning opportunities while keeping it in an environment you already trust. That kind of experience could bring in a much larger audience. And when more users join, something very important happens. The ecosystem starts to grow faster. More users lead to more activity. More activity leads to more demand. And that demand can drive further development and innovation. This creates what many call a flywheel effect, where each new layer of growth pushes the next one forward. There is also a much bigger vision behind all of this. Beyond just earning yield, XRP is being positioned as a key player in real-world asset tokenization. This means bringing real financial assets like bonds, currencies, and other instruments onto blockchain networks. The XRP ledger already has strong global distribution, especially in regions like Asia and other international markets. That makes it an attractive option for institutions that want access to a wide user base. So when you combine global reach, growing infrastructure, and new financial tools, you start to see the bigger picture forming. XRP is slowly moving from being just a digital asset into becoming part of a much larger financial system. Now let's go deeper and understand how all of this is actually going to work in the real world, because this is where things start to get very interesting for XRP holders. At the center of these new developments is one key idea: making XRP more useful without making it more complicated. In the past, if someone wanted to explore DeFi opportunities, they had to go through multiple steps. First, they would move their assets from an exchange to a private wallet. Then they might connect that wallet to another platform. After that, they would swap tokens, interact with smart contracts, and finally try to earn some kind of return. Each step adds friction, and more importantly, each step adds risk. For many XRP holders, especially those who prefer safety and simplicity, that process is not attractive. They would rather hold their XRP in a place they trust and avoid unnecessary complexity. And this is exactly the problem that new infrastructure is trying to solve. The goal now is to allow XRP holders to access advanced features like yield generation, lending, and asset utilization without forcing them to leave their comfort zone. Instead of jumping through multiple platforms, the experience is being simplified so that users can stay within a familiar environment while still benefiting from new opportunities. This is a major shift, because when you reduce friction, you increase participation. And when more people participate, the entire ecosystem becomes stronger. Another important development is how XRP is being connected to a broader financial layer through what many describe as tokenized assets and cross-network functionality. In simple terms, this means XRP is not just operating in isolation anymore. It is becoming part of a larger system where value can move more freely between different platforms and use cases. This is where the idea of XRP-FI really starts to take shape. Instead of XRP just being a bridge for payments, it can also become part of lending systems, insurance-like structures, and other financial tools that exist on-chain. This creates new ways for value to circulate, and it opens the door for both retail users and institutions to interact with XRP in more dynamic ways. Now let's talk about something very important: the concept of yield. In traditional finance, investors are always looking for ways to earn returns on their assets. Whether it's through bonds, savings accounts, or other instruments, the goal is to make money while holding value. Bringing that same idea into the XRP ecosystem could be a game changer, because now, instead of choosing between holding XRP or earning yield elsewhere, users can potentially do both. This becomes especially attractive when you consider larger players. Institutions don't just want assets that can grow in value. They also want assets that can generate consistent returns. If XRP can offer both, it becomes much more appealing at a higher level. But for this to work, one key factor must be in place: trust. Users need to feel that the system is secure. They need to know that their assets are safe. And they need confidence that the process is simple enough to use without making costly mistakes. This is why so much focus is being placed on improving user experience, reducing technical barriers, and building systems that feel familiar. Another piece of the puzzle is accessibility. If these features are only available to a small group of advanced users, then growth will remain limited. But if millions of XRP holders can access these tools easily, then adoption can scale much faster. This is where large platforms and integrations play a critical role. They act as bridges between everyday users and advanced financial features. And once that bridge is fully built, the flow of activity can increase rapidly. This is what people refer to as the flywheel effect. As more XRP enters these systems, more transactions occur. As more transactions happen, more demand is created. And as demand increases, the ecosystem becomes more valuable and more attractive for new participants. It's a cycle that feeds itself. At the same time, there are other signals in the market that suggest something is building beneath the surface. Exchange balances, for example, have been showing signs of decreasing supply over time. When assets move off exchanges, it can indicate that holders are preparing for long-term positioning rather than short-term selling. We are also seeing increased attention from institutional products like ETFs, which are starting to bring XRP exposure into more traditional financial environments. This doesn't directly mean banks are using XRP operationally yet, but it does show that interest is growing at a higher level. And that matters, because institutional interest often moves in stages. First comes exposure, then experimentation, and eventually integration. We may still be in the early to middle stages of that process, but the direction is becoming clearer. So when you combine all of these elements, simplified access, yield opportunities, growing infrastructure, and increasing institutional attention, you start to see a foundation being built for something much bigger. Now let's connect everything and talk about where all of this is really heading, because this is the part most people are trying to figure out. What we are seeing right now is not just a few random updates or small improvements. This is the early stage of XRP evolving into a much more complete financial system. In the past, XRP was mainly known for one thing: fast and cheap cross-border payments. That use case is still powerful, but now a second layer is being built on top of it. That second layer is utility. And not just basic utility, but advanced financial utility, where XRP can be used in multiple ways at the same time. It can be held as a long-term asset, used for payments, and at the same time, potentially generate yield through different systems being built around it. This kind of multi-purpose role is what makes an asset far more valuable in the long run, because the more ways an asset can be used, the more demand it can create. Now think about what happens if this system fully develops. You have millions of XRP holders around the world. If even a small percentage of them start using their XRP inside these new financial tools, the level of activity on the network could increase significantly. More activity means more transactions, more value flowing through the system, and a stronger overall ecosystem. And this is where that flywheel effect becomes very powerful. At first, growth may feel slow. Only a few users participate, and the impact looks small. But as more people join, the system starts to accelerate. More users bring more liquidity. More liquidity attracts more developers. More developers build more tools, and those tools bring even more users back into the system. This is how ecosystems expand. Another important piece of this puzzle is institutions. Right now, most of this activity is still building at the retail and early adoption level. But institutions are always watching. They are looking for systems that are proven, stable, and scalable. Once they see consistent activity, strong infrastructure, and clear opportunities for returns, they begin to move in. And when institutions move in, the scale changes completely. We are talking about much larger volumes, more structured products, and deeper integration into the financial system. This doesn't happen overnight, but the foundation being built right now is what makes that future possible. There is also something else happening quietly in the background: supply dynamics. When XRP moves off exchanges and into long-term holding or utility-based systems, the available supply for quick selling becomes smaller. At the same time, if demand continues to grow, even gradually, this creates pressure that can eventually impact the market in a meaningful way. But it's important to stay realistic. None of this guarantees immediate results. Markets take time to react. Infrastructure takes time to mature. And adoption always happens in phases. There will be ups and downs, periods of excitement, and periods where things feel slow again. That's part of every major technological shift. The key is understanding the direction. Right now, the direction shows XRP moving beyond just being held and toward being actively used. It shows an ecosystem that is trying to unlock more value for its users. And it shows early signs of a system that could grow much larger over time if everything continues to develop the right way. So instead of focusing only on short-term price movements, it makes more sense to watch the bigger picture. Watch how the technology evolves. Watch how easy it becomes for users to participate. Watch how much real activity is happening on the network, because those are the signals that matter. If you want clear, simple, and fact-based breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to XRP Gold Silver Scope, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your perspective matters, and this community grows stronger when we focus on understanding what's really happening.